Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at NUGGET 2021 today. For our next session, we have our Manager of Strategy and Operations, Harshad Marwaha, and he'll be presenting on developing a business case for your Netreo solution. Harshad has also joined us live online today if you have any questions, and he's also joined by Jed Caldwell, Netreo's Chief Revenue Officer. So please feel free to ask any questions that you have throughout the session in the chat panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and they'd be happy to get those answered for you. So Harshad, all systems are go. Take it away.
Hello and welcome everyone. Jed and I are here to talk about the importance of evaluating and justifying the cost of any investment and to illustrate how to build the business case for your Netreo solution. But before we jump into understanding the benefits of Netreo, let's just first understand why is it important to evaluate and justify the cost of any investment, right? So last year, we were hit by one of those worst events in the history, and its impact has been excruciating, especially to the business world. Even in the current situation, every investment is being deeply scrutinized, and this has only led to the more importance to understand the value and the savings from both time and effort from those investments. And it's not just important to understand those benefits, but it's also equally important to easily and clearly communicate that value, to be able to have some meaningful conversations, to be able to evaluate your performance, both internally against historical trends, as well as externally against the peers, and to ensure that the right resources are allocated to the business critical situations where the maximum value is being realized. So in this session, we'll discuss how we've enabled to make this process easy and to help you get a quick snapshot of the savings you can achieve with our Netreo solution. So if we all agree that ROI is important for any investment or purchase decisions, then one of those first steps towards that justification is to understand the benefits of the tool or any investment and what it brings to the table, right? And any great investment helps an organization from three core pillars: its people, the processes, and the technology and data. So here are some of those key benefits of Netreo. And for example, from the people side, we've helped organizations with their business agility. We've helped them reduce the need for support and maintenance complexity. On the processes side, we've helped foster onboarding and configuration using our multi-level templates. One of the key benefits being able to uncover the noise in the IT monitoring systems through the false alert suppressions. And this not only helps you achieve, reduce your mean time to resolve and detect, but it's equally important during those critical incidents where every second counts. Our schedule reporting requires no programming language, and we can customize reports and alerts. Of course, we have a unified view to manage your full stack, and our ability to monitor 25,000 devices from a single service engine helps you reduce those server overheads, as well as consolidate your tools. And while most of these benefits are relevant to you and most of our customers, but as we dive deeper into evaluating the value, it's important to realize that each of these benefits apply differently to different organizations, especially based on their infrastructure needs, their industry norms, the pre-Netreo practices, and so on. So to give it a more structure, based on our customer discussions, we actually identified 4 key themes across which these benefits have proved, Netreo has proven its value to the customers. First being tool consolidation and time to value. Second being IT operations and service desk savings. Third being downtime risk mitigation. Fourth being the improved reporting and analytics. Maybe let's spend some time to just understand what these values stand for, right? So starting from tool consolidation and time to value, Netreo's single offering helps you eliminate all those legacy silo tools which cater to limited use cases, right? And our zero admin device onboarding helps customers scale faster. And of course, as I highlighted before, we can monitor 25,000 devices with a single server. It helps you reduce that footprint. On the IT operations side, our intelligent alert management system helps you optimize your day-to-day IT operations by reducing that alert deluge. And our incident resolution actually eventually helps you reduce the MTTD and the MTTR, which of course plays a big role during those critical events. And our ServiceNow integration, it actually helps with the overall ticket management, and the IT team can actually automatically create tickets and manage their status in the ITSM tool. Talking about downtime risk, I think this is one of those predominant benefits of a monitoring tool. We are all aware that during any outage, one we just saw a week back, right, where one of the biggest technology players was down for 6 hours. And one can only estimate the amount of dollar they would have lost, right? So during critical incidents, if things are off, each second counts. And Netreo aims to actually help increase organizations' uptime by highlighting only those actionable alerts to ensure that your team does not miss any critical incidents and nothing falls through those cracks. And with a faster time to resolve, it actually ensures that the system is up and running at the earliest. Especially, and this becomes extremely important for organizations which are heavily impacted by IT service disruptions, for example, banking, healthcare, etc. Last but not the least, every enterprise tool needs to have a world-class reporting and analytics feature, and Netreo's custom tailored dashboarding, or report dissemination, report generation, it actually has helped clients reduce their weekly and monthly reports and get that single pane of glass view to monitor and increase the team's productivity. So let's talk about how did we approach the ROI process, right? In addition to leveraging Netreo's 20 years of experience and the customer data, we also benchmark against industry metrics and KPIs to help bring that end-to-end outside-in perspective through a very systematic and structured approach. Our guiding principles actually were focused to identify those pain points and especially the wow moments when a customer deploys Netreo solution. And we wanted to focus the benefits right across a complete buyer journey, right? Not just after, but right from the evaluation process to the post-deployment maintenance, we've covered it all. And as we highlighted earlier, it has to be easy enough, detailed enough, but to get those meaningful conversations out and illustrate how a solution can alleviate those challenges in a quick snapshot way. And as we'll see the illustration, we'll also see how we've kept those additional levers to get some some tailored results. We've benchmarked, we've used industry reports, we performed some interviews with our customers, with solution architects, and of course, we try to capture some industry nuances to ensure that the right value is reflecting the nature of the organization. So I think it's nothing better to talk about a tool than to actually see it in action. And for that, let's look at this illustration and understand a hypothetical scenario where, let's say, there's a mid-market healthcare provider who is an IT team of around 20 employees and a moderate infrastructure of 7,000 devices, basically varying around 10 unique vendors. And why this is important to understand the vendor mix is there could be a customer with, let's say, 50,000 or more devices, but it's only about 2 or 3 different types. Now that deployment is extremely different from even a small 2K or 3,000 devices, which have a huge mix, right? So it's important to understand that IT complexity to finally quantify any benefits. In the scenario, let's assume the customer is struggling to keep up with those ever-increasing tools and footprints, and the team is actually monitoring around 500 alerts per day. Of course, they've got their hybrid IT infrastructure monitoring needs, but they're still taking around 2 hours on an average to solve any issue, which could be really painful in terms of if all the systems go down, right? So maybe let's use this scenario to understand the tool and see how the values are realized. All right, so we're in the tool. It's a pretty simple tool. We've tried to keep it extremely simple yet detailed enough to get that the summary of the values. So let's start with the inputs. As we said, we've got some basic information, right? It's healthcare. The tool actually covers major 15, 16 industries where Netreo customers operate. We get a good size of the organization. We think about the deployment, whether it's on-prem or SaaS. And of course, it's good to understand the current solutions being used, only because that helps realize the value faster once we try to deploy the Netreo solution, right? So once we've got this, there are 6 critically designed questions. I think we were very careful when we were thinking about these questions, because we wanted to keep it simple, but at the same time, we wanted to capture those complexities which could actually change the value of the benefit. So we start with the number of devices, the vendor mix, as we talked about, and of course, the time to detect and resolve a solution. As you can see, these are of course unique to customers, but what's interesting about the tool is it also gives you an industry observed value for some of those other metrics. For example, an organization of this size is usually using around 4 to 6 tools, of course, based on different industries, etc. But and as we change some of those inputs around, let's say we move towards a larger organization, we can see how the tool changes, how the usual number of servers changes, and the alerts change. But of course, in this scenario, let's assume the tools are increasing. So there are a lot of they're using some 8 tools. They're using a lot of servers to host it. And of course, the team is managing around 500. So once these inputs are in, that's it. We've got the exact summary of how the values will be realized. So let's, on a cost of around 550K, we estimate the benefits around 2 million, or an ROI of 253%. This correlates to around a payback period of around 5 to 6 months from the time of deployment. And what this gives you is, it gives you a quick summary of how those benefits and the costs are spread across 3 years, how it accumulates together as net benefits. And as we discuss these key themes, how are those benefits spread across these 4 key themes, right? Tools consolidation, IT ops, downtime risk, and enhanced reporting. And of course, this changes based on the customer scenario, changes on the inputs, and we'll actually see what constitutes the value and the benefits across these 4 key pillars. So let's dive into the detail of benefits. Maybe let's just first understand what are the key high-level attributes for each of these 4 key benefits, right? So starting with the first tool, consolidation, faster time to value. I think, as we said, ease of device resource onboarding. It's because of our automated device onboarding, the ability to tune and your platform and for easy administrative task and configuration. It's one of those first values which you realize when you deploy a Netreo solution. Second, as we've said, if there are a lot of servers with Netreo, you can monitor 25,000 devices with a single service engine, and hence there are direct savings from the reduction in your footprint. And the tools consolidation. Netreo has a unified solution which helps you eradicate the need of those legacy siloed tools which only cater to a select use cases. On the IT operations side, Netreo's AI Ops, it actually helps you, deflect those redundant child alerts through false alert suppression, which will allow the team to focus only on the actionable alerts, right? So a lot of time is wasted just combing through all of those alerts, and there is huge risk if one of those critical alerts just falls through the crack. For the second, we actually combine machine and human intelligence to accelerate their root cause analysis. And eventually this has helped reduce the mean time to detect by as much as even 50%. The Netreo's service now, which we talked about the integration earlier, it actually helps the IT staff to spot those conflicts between the data between various tools, and everything becomes automatic. We can automatically log tickets for the issues tracked by monitoring tool. They can track the state in the ITSM tool, and that's how those service desk savings are realized. Downtime, I think, as we said, even if one of those critical alerts just went through the crack, right? The team somehow missed it, and that's it. It leads to an organization-wide shutdown, and it's one of those worst situations to be in, right? So we ensure that you see those real-time warnings about your network problems even before the business realizes it's an issue, so that the idea being to predict and avoid those service outages. And of course, avoiding business disruptions, loss of revenue, so customer value. It has a lot of even non-quantifiable damages, like damages to the brand value, etc. So I think that becomes extremely important. And lastly, on the reporting side, with built-in capacity planning reports, built-in NOC dashboards, the ability for report generation and dissemination, and to get that single pane of glass view, we help reduce the time spent on reporting. And those are those key 8 attributes, if I can say, which capture all the benefits of, or the key benefits of Netreo. Let's maybe dive into see how we structured and how we actually got the values from these, right? So let's talk about maybe cost savings from reduction in servers. The tool clearly describes what values were used, how the input differs from an assumption, from a benefit, and if there are calculations, what are the elements in that calculation to make the whole process extremely transparent. So for example, in this case, we know the client was using 7 servers. With Netreo, as they're just monitoring 7,000 devices, we can achieve this with 1 server. Here's an assumption that they're usually taking around 12,000 annually. And this, of course, is based on industry benchmarks. And we'll see soon that how we can even change all these assumptions to get that tailored result. Similarly, if we expand and understand the tools consolidation process, there's the tool savings, there's the cost of maintaining that tool, how Netreo can help you reduce with all these risk adjustment factors built in, right? That's how each benefit is actually calculated. Maybe let's also spend one more time in understanding the downtime, right? That being one of those highest risks. So let's say, it's a moderate impact on downtime. It's a very conservative assumption that we've taken throughout the model, and there are some number of terms, outages planned, what's the time, it's a clear input, and how the uptime changes with and without Netreo, right? So if this is applicable based on those 6 inputs and the industry values, but if we are aware that the values for our own environment, let's maybe see how we can actually build those tailored results, right? So we go to the assumptions tab, and where we can see there are 15 additional levers that we can change to get that tailored results. So maybe let's assume in this case, we have some different values in mind. The client has already achieved some efficiencies, and they're spending around 8K annually, right? And the licensing cost, however, that they're paying, let's say, is 35,000 annually per tool. Growth assumptions in devices, right? As the team is growing, as they're seeing a lot of changes, they forecast that their growth is going to be more than 10, let's say 15% annually. As we said, let's assume if it's extremely prone to downtime, let's say they're facing a lot of outages, the hourly cost is huge. And let's assume that if everything remains same, it's all these loaded costs of engineers absolutely available. How those the result changes, right? So if we go back to the summary and we see, right, there's an expected increase in the ROI because there's a huge now savings in the downtime risk, because there are a lot of outages. The cost of outages has increased, and therein how the profile of the benefit shifts based on the custom needs or the current environment of the customer. And one important thing to understand is we can always benchmark how we are doing, because that's how we based most of our assumptions on. These are all based on industry-wide reports. We can read and dive deeper into the understanding of how organizations perform across industries based on their different needs. So I think this was in a nutshell of how easy yet detailed calculation of an ROI for the Netreo solution. So coming back to the example, as we saw that in organization of around 7,000 devices, as they were struggling, they could easily identify their value with Netreo. And it's a good spread of benefits across tools consolidation, IT operations, and downtime risk. Of course, as and when the nature of the organization changes, the infrastructure changes, right? If there's more complexity, the whole profile changes, and that's all one can easily understand, and hence focus where it's most important, right? So as a quick recap, I think Netreo is enabled with a very easy and intuitive ROI calculator to understand those benefits, right? There are 6 easy questions which captures those IT infrastructure needs and complexities. However, if for more tailored results, there are flexible 15 more assumptions to do, and there are benchmarks to look to understand the performance against the peers, against the industry, etc. And what's interesting is, thanks to our recent acquisition of Stackify, Netreo has now more deeper capabilities into application performance monitoring. So it's the benefits of APM and further combined is coming soon in the next version. I think that's all for us. Thank you. We'll pause for question and answers.